who is Be Slavery Free?
Well, Be Slavery Free is a coalition of around about 30 NGOs, labour organisations, unions, faith-based groups and international aid and development groups, some who are doing service delivery and some which are working in campaigning and others that are working with business or with government to actually work on it. We work wherever possible in relationship relationally and also in coalitions or in partnerships, because we think the only way that we're going to stop modern slavery is together.
So can you tell me a little bit about what Be Slavery Free does?
So Be Slavery Free, we see ourselves working with a number of sectors and often to help them to understand their shared responsibility to work together on solving what we see as a wicked problem. So our main focus is we work with government to bring awareness and to bring the kind of legislation and policy change that is needed. We work with business to help them to identify how they can contribute to preventing and abolishing modern slavery. And we work with consumers and civil society on how is it that the consumer voice can be heard, how is it that civil society can take the best actions that they can take to address modern slavery.
And we talk about them as the three legs on the society stool: government, business, civil society and consumers.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that great overview. We might now go through each one of those legs. If you can start by telling me a little bit more about what does your work with government involve? We
work at a number of levels. We work at state level, and so we're involved in helping with the New South Wales Modern Slavery Act. We work nationally, and so we're involved with the Australian Modern Slavery Act and the review. And we work internationally with national governments, but also with United Nations and regional councils, political councils, in what's called the G to G, so government to government relationships that are there as well.
So we're on an international think tank that brings together people who've been part of instigating legislations to address modern slavery and human rights in different parts of the world, to talk about how that legislation is going, how we can encourage it in different places and how we can learn from each other in terms of what works and what doesn't work.
Could you now tell me a little bit more about your work with business? What does that involve?
So we work with companies, with businesses, to actually help them to know their supply chain, to find the skills and the tools to actually dig down and be quite granular in the ways that they are understanding what's happening in their supply chain, to help them to actually do that, because we think that is probably one of the most powerful things that we can do in the anti-slavery area, is with business.
We also bring together businesses. One of the things that we learnt in working particularly in the fashion industry, when we started to bring business together after the horrible industrial accident at Rana Plaza in Bangladesh, when so many people were killed because of bad occupational health and safety issues, we brought together the fashion industry to have a conversation. And we actually found that a lot of the solutions and a lot of the insight came about from these people talking to each other. They'd never talked to each other before. And so we had sustainability people, supply chain, procurement, human rights, lawyers, etc., from businesses coming together. And this ferment of understanding started to develop across that industry, where they started to learn from each other. So one of the things that we see as our particular skill and particular contribution is to curate conversations between people that aren't talking to each other to bring solutions.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what does your work with consumers involve?
One of the things we find is that consumers say, we want to do something, and our policy is we never give information without giving an action that you can do about that information. So a lot of what we're doing with consumers is actually helping them to understand the situation, know the questions to ask, and know how it is that they can approach companies to actually ask the key questions of, are you a good company, are you an ethical company?
Right now in Australia, what kinds of laws exist to prevent the things that we purchase on a daily basis from being made with modern slavery?
Well, in Australia we have what's known as the Commonwealth Modern Slavery Act, and that Commonwealth Modern Slavery Act requires entities, not just business, but all kinds of entities, universities, etc., to put together what's called a modern slavery risk statement. And so entities with a consolidated revenue of over $100 million are required to do that. And that means looking at their supply chains, looking at the goods and the services that they are providing to consumers and saying, here's our risk of modern slavery, this is what we're doing about it, this is what we're learning on the way, and this is how we are responding if we find it. Then there is also some state legislation. West Australian Government has some very clear laws around their procurement to ensure that government procurement isn't tainted with modern slavery. So that's one end. And then New South Wales actually has its own Modern Slavery Act with an anti-slavery commissioner who has a team of people that help government entities but also help businesses in New South Wales to address issues of modern slavery in their supply chain and to help service providers, so hospitals, teachers, schools, police and so on, to be ready to make the best response that they can to modern slavery.
What would you recommend consumers do if they were interested in finding out about what the businesses that they support are doing to combat modern slavery?
You can have a look at their modern slavery statement. If they're a large business, that's online in modernslaveryregistry.gov.au, I think is the URL, but just Google it and you will find it. There are also a number of benchmarking or survey tools that are released. We do one at Be Slavery Free on chocolate, rating different chocolate companies, so you can get hold of that, chocolatescorecard.com. Baptist World Aid, which is one of our partners, does the Ethical Fashion Guide. So there are a number of these kind of benchmarking tools that help you to make choices about what you procure, what you purchase, how you use your spending dollar.
The other one, of course, is Choice and the Australian Consumer Association. And Choice now, when they are rating a product, will also have a rating, if they're able to get it, on the ethical rating on the product that they are reviewing. So there are a number of tools which are now emerging for consumers to be able to look up and say, I want to buy this, I'm looking for a washing machine, or I'm looking for whatever. Well, what's Choice saying about what are the tools that are around that actually will do the work for me?
So can you tell me, what can a concerned member of the community do to help address modern slavery?
So the first thing that, if you're concerned about modern slavery, that you can do is get yourself educated. And a simple Google search will find a number of websites that will give you information about what modern slavery is and how you can identify the signs of it. So start there. Once you've found out about it, you'll want to do something about it. So go to some of the websites that tell you what you can do. What questions can you ask? What industries can you focus on? How can you make differences in your own life around addressing modern slavery? The final is that you will also want to share it. So find the stories, find the examples, find the products that you can tell other people around so that we can spread the movement of ending modern slavery.